We're going to ask Herb Robinson, a Democrat running for the United States Senate, some questions. Do you support a repeal of the Patriot Act?
Yes. And if I couldn't get it repealed, I would like to at least amend it so that people who are held without cause get paid time and a half, so they won't lose their house, you know. I mean, you can kind of look at it as that they're doing a sacrifice for the country, and we ought to pay them for it.
And Military Commissions Act, do you support a repeal of that too?
Don't know what it is.
It's an act that took away habeas corpus.
Yeah, I would support repeal of that too.
Yeah.
It's probably unconstitutional anyway,
Yes.
but...
What would you do about net neutrality? The 4 telecommunication companies trying to take over the internet. What would you do about that?
I'm in favor of net neutrality. People should not be restricted as to what they can publish on the internet, and pricing should be level for all content providers.
Okay, the Citizens United Supreme Court decision. What would you do about that?
Well, obviously, I think corporations aren't people.
You think corporations are people?
Are not people.
Are not people.
Sorry, I mumbled there. Got to be clear. So I gather from the legal folks that would take a constitutional amendment to fix. Now, I think the way to get that done is there is need actually for corporate tax reform.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of agree with that. I think, some kind of a flat tax would be good. But I can't see how we could have corporate tax reform as long as corporations are people.
Yeah.
So there's, some room to compromise there. And, most corporations couldn't give a hoot about the Citizens United thing. This is really just a matter of some really small minority of finding a way to channel their money into the political process. But lots of corporations want tax reform. So I think that's a way to get it done. I also don't think that it's going to be as big an effect as people think, because a lot of negative advertising, I believe, is going to backfire on the people who do it. I've been canvassing and talking to a lot of voters in other campaigns, and they don't like the negative advertising, and it really starts to annoy them more than anything else. So we may be overreacting to it too.
There are a lot of people worried about how it's going to take over our elections.
And like I say, it might, or hopefully, maybe I'm an optimist here, but people will just overreact to the negative. And, people, I think, who are, want to help the Democrats should respond to the negative ads with not more negative ads, but education.
Right. As
to the mistakes in the negative ads.
Okay, what would you do about jobs?
Well, I support President Obama's bill, the jobs bill.
Good.
The only thing that's proven to help the economy and fix it and bring jobs back is incentive spending or stimulus spending. This tinkle-down tax, that doesn't work. I mean, we've had that for 10 years and it hasn't done squat. Cutting the federal government to bring jobs, that does the opposite. I've been saying this for 3 or 4 months now, that you cut the federal budget, that's layoffs. And there's been a study now, they've simulated it, and the $100 billion spending cut is a 700,000 person layoff. That's what that translates into. So that's absolutely the wrong thing to do. And, the Tea Party, when people disagree on things, it's either they're both right or they're both wrong, or maybe the problem's insoluble, or they're trying to solve different problems. And I think the problem that the Tea Party is trying to solve is how do we get rid of that black president, at the expense of anything else, including selling the country down the road. So, that approach is just totally wrong. I would also like to see little or no taxes on long-term capital gains of initial public offerings only. That's when a company sells stock directly to the public, or maybe through brokers. But the point is the money goes to the company, they invest in a new factory or even a new company, and it builds jobs. That's another kind of using private money for incentives, for stimulus spending. And the third thing that I would do is I have this thing called bottom line regulation, which is basically, it's a variation on the tax people who make over $1 million a year. But what I would do is I would vary the tax rate based on the unemployment rate. Okay, so if the unemployment rate's over 6.5%, their taxes would go up. Unemployment's under 4.5%, their taxes would actually go down. So that would give them, one, it would give them a motivation to manage the economy properly. These are the people who run the economy, so it would give them an incentive plan. But the other thing is it would make extra money available during hard times for stimulus spending. So it's got at least two benefits over just doing a regular, tax the billionaires.
Yep. Okay. Republicans are trying to pass a War Powers Act, expand the war powers of the executive branch, the president, and I think the Democrats are trying to take the war powers back to Congress. What are you in favor of with that?
I think the war powers should be back with Congress. Obviously I'm running for Congress. I've got to angle for my own branch, right?
Right. Yeah.
The president has too much authority.
Yeah, that's the way it's supposed to be in the Constitution too. All right. What would you do about Social Security?
Social Security is not an entitlement. Social Security is an obligation. We've all worked hard to earn that Social Security money. It's not, a piggy bank for the Republicans to go raid. I think that it's just atrocious that the Tea Party and the Republicans are out there trying to steal the Social Security benefits of hardworking Americans. These people have worked for this all their lives. It's their money. They've earned it. And, the Republicans going after that, that's class warfare if I've ever seen it.
Okay, what do you do about immigration?
We obviously need immigration reform. There's a huge number of people who are not documented properly. I would, fine employers of illegal immigrants, and the fine I would pick would be, one, I'd pay the workers back salary for everything between what they've been getting paid and, prevailing union wage. And then I would have a fine of about 5 times that on the employer. And also, we obviously need some sort of a path to become citizens and or at least get their green card. There's been lots of proposals of that. I, pretty much support all of them.
Okay, there was banking legislation that helped separate the banks. It said that, which is the Glass-Steagall Act. The Glass-Steagall Act would separate the banks, make it so you can have a commercial bank, you can have an investment bank, but you can't have a bank that does both. Would you support that? I know that's Linda Marush has been pushing that, but it's really actually a good bill that was FDR passed a while back.
I haven't had time to research that one, so I'll pass on that.
Okay, and the Sherman Antitrust Act deals with breaking down monopolies. Would you support that?
Always have, always will.
Yep.
In fact, we could probably use a little of the Sherman Antitrust Act on Partners Healthcare right now.
Yep.
Although I hope Martha Coakley is looking into that.
All right. Oh, and what's your feelings about the Occupy protesters in Worcester now, D.C., Boston, and Wall Street?
Well, the frustration that they are feeling is one of the big reasons I'm running. The other reason I'm running, of course, is energy policy, because I think we really can't fix our economy unless we fix our energy policy. And, I'm an engineer, so I know a lot about that. And I can make good choices in energy policy. For example, I know that corn ethanol production is a boondoggle. I also know that nuclear is dangerous. The Chernobyl accident, depending on whose numbers you pick, killed between 9,000 and 900,000 people when the dust settled. It takes 20 years or actually even longer than that, for the full toll to be known.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hard to figure out, because the main thing from a nuclear power plant going down, or from nuclear waste either, the main killer is radiation over long term, causing cancers. And so it's really hard to figure out exactly how much damage has been done. So that's why the estimates range over such a wide range. But, I spent a lot of time digging into this, and I tell you, I couldn't sleep for weeks afterwards. It's really important that we not build any more nuclear power plants, or at least not any of the kind of the design they're using now.
Yeah, especially what happened in Japan. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's just more proof. The physicists use the term entropy to describe it. The other thing is Murphy's law, is that sooner or later they will melt down. They're basically an unstable design, and they try very hard to make them safe, but all you can do is make them less dangerous. There's just no way to make that design safe.
Okay, would you want to close? Would we want to close Guantanamo?
Yes.
All right. That's pretty much it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yes. Well, thanks for airing me wherever you are airing me.
Yeah.